review. We had it all, didn't we? We had draws, we had comeback wins. It was a weekend of great rugby. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion, and I do get to take the back seat on a Monday. So I'm going to go and hop over to the live chat. I'm going to leave you with Steve and Shane to take you through the games.
Welcome back along, everyone, to the Round 5 review. Welcome back along, Shane. We've got some not as big a week as we normally do for our Super Rugby review. So hopefully this time I'll be able to keep it nicely and short, but I doubt it's going to happen. So, of course, we only had, we had 6 games technically, but 5 of them were the ones that played out. We'll get to more of that later on. But we didn't see anything from the Blues, the Sharks, or the Bulls, and it all kicked off in the opening game on Friday night. The Chiefs versus the Hurricanes. This was expected to be a bit of a blowout, but that's not how things went. The Chiefs had the best start they've had in a long, long time, scoring an opportunistic try through Anton Leonard-Brown, charging down to open up the Chiefs' account. But it was the Canes that straight back through Matt Proctor, scrum set play, and he was all in over that one as well. Damian McKenzie, a lot of talk about him being at number 15. He showed why he's suited to that jumper, putting in a beautiful finish straight through a gaping hole in the Canes' defence. The two sides exchanged penalties throughout the rest of the half, and amazingly, I think most people will be shocked that it was 20 points to 13 at half-time. The Chiefs actually had a lead. Could they hang on to it in the second half? Well, didn't look like it was going to go their way as Wes Hoosen sparked into the second half of action, sliding his way a good 10 metres to score off a great break from Chase Tiatia. And then the finish of the match was all about goal kicking, and saying we've criticised New Zealand teams over was the poor goal kicking. Much better today and much better defence. Good attack, but poor finishing by both teams. The Chiefs scored the last points of the game was on the 57th minute, which was a penalty, and that was the last time we've seen points. Both teams couldn't finish the job, and the game ended up a draw, and everyone's big picks for the weekend went down the toilet straight away. 23-23, Shane, a shock to start our weekend off.
My favourite New Zealand derby, actually, the battle of the two big North Island sides. And, a shock. I thought there would be at least a clear winner in this one. But good on the Chiefs. Wearing the heritage jumper, it was a really nice jumper, actually. And they turned up. Yes, it wasn't a win, but they got a lot more confidence out of it, moving McKenzie to 15. And I think they actually were the better side and deserved the win, if you ask me myself. But let's just focus on what the Chiefs did right this time. They started to do their old angle grind up the middle running, something that they have gone away from in the last 4 weeks. McKenzie looked much better at 15. His brother was ripping in at 10. And that was probably, for me, the difference in what the Chiefs' attacking game was. Yes, though, they let a few things slip at the end too. There was very lucky to survive a 5-metre scrum with about 5 to go. McKenzie dropped the ball over his in-goal line. He missed, I think, a penalty, which would have won it, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And but all in all, a really good game of rugby to start a Friday night, and that is so typical of the 5:30 game over here, the 7:30 game in New Zealand. So 2 points, and probably you could say, well, if you couldn't pick a winner, you got a draw.
Well, you've got to look at Chiefs.
But as they say, but you're saying it's a good game. Don't they say a draw's like kissing your sister?
Well, he is from Australia, so I mean, that was a low blow. That was a terribly low blow. I mean, the Chiefs, back to the rugby, the Chiefs will take this. This is massive for the Chiefs. I mean, the way this season started, 0-4, they are looking dreadful. I, for one, was picking a big Hurricanes win. The way they'd been going was pretty good. But the change, I mean, the good Southland boys, taking it back and taking the Chiefs up a level. Good old Marty at 10. I mean, Paul just loved that, having Marty McKenzie starting things up at 10, and he's dropping his head in shame already. And Damien was much better at fullback. It was a revelation. And, I mean, I'll admit, I'm not a fan of him at 10, and he's made a big difference there at 15. It's like watching from your perspective, Shane, Israel Folau. A great guy at fullback. He can pick and choose the time, the position, the place that he can hit the line. He is much more dangerous, in my opinion, of that. And Mackenzie's the same. He can pick a spot and he can just hit that mark, hit that hole, hit where he thinks is going to be weak. And that's where he is at his best, is being able to have that rather than being that guy receiving the ball first time off. So big for the Chiefs. And now, I mean, how do you pick them next time? That's going to be tough as well, going into round 6. But that was the first game, a draw. Everyone's big picks were down the toilet straight away. First game, never a great way to start a weekend. But then we went from one derby match in New Zealand over to one in Australia with the Brumbies hosting the Waratahs. Now, this was a big one for Australia, and it's going to have a huge telling on how the table sit it out for the rest of the season between these two sides. It was a frenetic start. Hooper scored inside the opening few minutes from Bruno the Postman Foley, who delivered his first kick off the upright, and I got to say, some lazy defence or lazy kick chasing from the Brumbies allowed them to snaffle that one back and score an early, easy try to start off that matchup from them. And then it was the try freak, Folau Faianga. It's that name, isn't it? Hit back, and he's actually scored from open play, not from the driving maul for the Brumbies. So that was good for him. And then that was much of the highlights from the first half. Kipu gets a yellow card just for the break, but into the sheds they went. And it was the Brumbies leading at 12 points to 5. Not a high-scoring affair, but definitely not a New Zealand derby affair either. It was far from that, but still a close match-up between two very competitive sides. Into the second half, the Waratahs struck first, and was Folau setting up Newson out wide. And a concern that we were talking about a few weeks ago, even earlier today, about New Zealand's goal kicking, seems to have transferred over the ditch now. Bruno Foley, 0-3. Very bizarre to see him going like that. Another yellow card was dished out. Johnson Holmes picks his up, and then Foley got a kick, cuts the lead down to just 6. In the last 20 minutes of the match, much like we've seen in the opening game, errors all round, desperation to try and make that difference of a winner. Didn't come the way of the Waratahs. The Brumbies had a late try ruled out, which was great for me because I picked this one by 6 and ended up exactly that. 19-13. The Brumbies held on throughout, and they took a big victory for the Australian Conference.
Well, I've always said that no matter where these sides are on the table, the Brumbies are going to show up against the Tars because it's known as the New South Wales rejects against New South Wales. And that has traditionally been the history of that derby. And well done to the working boys over the elite as well, from a neutral observer. 1913, it wasn't the greatest derby that we've ever had. Not that we've had that many great derbies over the years. But Friday night fight night, as we call it over here, never fails to disappoint with yellow cards and good old Aussie way of rugby. And without Pocock as well, not playing, and, Alan Alatoa. So that was a big effort in itself, missing a couple of key Wallabies from that Brumbies side. And Carmichael Hunt didn't play for New South Wales either. So, I've got to say, despite the scrappiness of this game, there were some very good moments, like Lockie McCaffrey's work, the Brumbies back rows really, sticking it to the New South Wales boys, and Foley missing key points. Foley kicks those points, New South Wales win. He's got to really start to work on his kicking game to be more accurate, and I think that this inconsistency that he is putting in at the 10 jumper at the Tars is not helping him win a 10 jumper for the Wallabies come World Cup time.
It's interesting you bring that up. The pressure getting to him, you think, of that Wallabies World Cup jersey. Now he's got that pressure from players like, especially, Quade Cooper. Well,
he's the alternative, and he's playing pretty well at the Rebels. So he hadn't had that pressure, not even in 2017 when Quade played a season at the Reds. Look, I like Bernard. I think he's a great player. I like Beale. I think he's a great player. but they have been too inconsistent. And I'm going to say this directly now. Have a go or get out. You know, Australian rugby deserves better from you two, and you are two senior Wallabies, and you are not performing to the level that you should. And it's great to see other people step up and create some competition in a World Cup year.
Well, you've set the Chiefs aside. You've sorted those boys out now. Now the focus is on the Waratahs. Sort those guys out. Big names not playing the best, though, for Australia, and that has got to be a concern for them into this big World Cup year as well. Right, that's 2 games done. We'll move our way over to Newlands, where the Stormers are in action up against the Jaguares. A lot of games that were pretty tense to pick these ones here, but this one didn't turn out much like, especially I thought. The Jaguares kicked off well, though, and they actually were the first team to get on the scoreboard, scoring a try through Dalgi, which was the only time that they would cross the line in the whole match. So that doesn't tell you something to ruin the rest of the game. Nothing else will. The Stormers grabbed their only try in the first half through some pretty average chip defence from the Jaguares. Little chip going through. About 3 or 4 players banged into each other, all injured each other, and the Stormers grabbed an easy try. Penalties exchanged for the remainder of the half, but pretty low scoring, but still highly intensive match. 16-8, the Stormers took the lead into the break. Into the second half, there's only one team in the game. The Stormers just dominated. The forwards dominated. They were getting quick ball from their rucks, and it looked all a bit too easy. Tries to Khaleesi, tries to Yankees, and tries to Justin Phillips, the 2 scrum halves getting on the scoreboard for the Stormers, all from the mauls or from quick ball close to the line. That was just too hard and too fast to defend. The Jaguares had chances, there's no doubt about that, but they failed to really cash in anything at all, and were mistake-ridden, error-ridden, and only had themselves to blame for not being in this match at all. It finished 35-8. A surprising result, but boy, these Stormers from round 1, it's a different team we're looking at now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Round 1 seems like something of a distant past for the Stormers. They were outstanding. Again, a lot of handling errors in this one. A lot of basic skill levels were down. And the Jaguares, obviously, their dreadful form in South Africa continues. And they've still got a couple more games later in the year to play there. So that's going to be tough for them. This is one of my favourite games in the calendar. And I watched this one from start to finish. Sia Khaleesi from the Stormers, what a player. He had a big game and he had a big say, and that really, that forward pack with the Stormers, they got really busy. Putting on the phase play helped, and that helped their backs finish it off. And, round 1, as I said, that was a time ago now, and the Stormers are setting the pace in the South African Conference. Obviously, there'll be bigger tests later of the year with New Zealand sides and things like that, but good on the Stormers for bouncing back. It can only be onwards and upwards now.
Yeah, it definitely is. They do look to see a team perfectly on the increase or on the rise as well. But like you say, big tester is going to be when they tour. And we know historically when they come, especially to New Zealand as well, they tend to fall apart at the seams completely everywhere all over the pitch. So that's going to be the real test for them. But it's good to see them winning. There was a lot of pressure went on them early on after that first big loss. Everyone was expecting that Stormers were going to be also around of South Africa, but they've turned around nicely, and they are going to be a real team to watch out for later on in the competition. That's a halfway point of our 6 matches. Paul's got special words to say. He's been itching for this ad break since the start.
And thank you. I thought I was going after 2 games. You see, I was all confused. But yes, to help us support us bringing you this content for free, and also to get exclusive access to my For Your Ears Only series, which will be coming out on Wednesday, which comes out Wednesdays. Which this week is talking about the CVC potential investment in the 6 Nations. Plus, also you can get my series of the DrivingMaul versus the bookie, and also behind the curtains, looking at the business or what I do away from the camera, talking about all the technology, strategy, etc. Become a Patreon of DrivingMaul. Link down below in the comments. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. Basically, you can become a member or a supporter of DrivingMaul, and you get access to all of that. Back to the real show.
And you could also get yourself a hat. I mean, who doesn't want the hat?
One of the
Not
tiers
about
is a
the
hat. You don't get a hat for $1 though.
No, not for $1. No, nothing's that cheap. No. Anyway, back onto the rugby. Back to why we're here. I was just looking at the South African conference. It is tight. It is really tight. Top three sides on 13, and then 11 and 9 for the last two. That's the Sharks and the Jaguares at the bottom. How close is that? Super tight. So they're big matches and big results coming out of Africa in the future. We'll move on to the fourth match of the round, the Sunwolves versus the Reds. Now, I'm sure you're going to have lots to say about this one, Shane, so I'll quickly scoot through what happened. It was a pretty action-packed game, so we'll try snip through it quickly. A phenomenal first half from the Sunwolves. Right from the start, they looked hot. Booth scoring off a little break, and it was just 10 minutes into the game, and they looked like they were back to that team a couple of weeks ago that thrashed the Chiefs. The Reds, though, not to be left out. They scored back through a maul through Liam Wright, and it was game on at that point. Not for much long after that, though, as the Sunwolves took over, scoring tries. Vasiaho and Dan Pryor chipping in with a couple of tries. And, of course, you can't forget about the boot of Hayden Parker. That guy is just a freak when it comes to kicking goals. Flawless again. And he set up a big lead for the Sunwolves at half-time. They lead 21-5 over the Reds. And, I mean, many people are probably thinking this one was all over. But no, something flipped that switch. Probably a big Brad Thorne fist or something saying that this has got to change. And it did change. Reds hooker Painga Musa crashed over for his first try just after half-time. Then Harry Hupert jumped in the fun as well. Great offload, piercing straight through the big man to scamper home for another Reds try. And they were back in the game at 21 points to 19. Then there was a hooker again, Painga Musa grabbing his second try and the Reds' third in 10 minutes. And they led the game for the first time in the match, but it wasn't over there. As Yoshida, the Sunwolves scrum half, he chipped over as well. Another one for the Sunwolves. It was topsy-turvy. Everyone had a part. It was a poor restart from the Reds, and they gifted the lead back to the Sunwolves. But it continued on. In the 72nd minute, the Sunwolves penalty gave them up to a 5-point lead. Just 6 minutes to go. And Reds' Tate McDermott charged down, scored a try, and tied it all up. A conversion out wide to take the lead for the Reds was a stray. And at this point, if Shane hadn't here, he would be tearing it out. But he held his composure as they got another chance, the Reds. On the 79th minute, Stewart pops over a penalty to give them the slenderest and luckiest of wins over the Sunwolves. And to be fair, I mentioned this on Twitter, if the Sunwolves didn't mean anything to teams beating them in this competition, you wouldn't have seen that elation that we've seen on the coaching staff's faces. Brad Thorne and Carr up in the box, the reserves on the bench, and the players on the field were absolutely elated. They were happy, they were pleased, they were relieved. They were just stoked that they actually managed to pull off that win. 30 pumped after that finish.
We're back. Queenslander. Our first win of the year. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, and all Australian sides included, going to Japan is not an easy task anymore. These are no easy beat sides anymore. So you're going to have to play for the full 80. In our case, we got lucky in the last 20-odd minutes with the tries and so forth, but the Sunwolves, they came out of the blocks. They deserved their lead. It was not great rugby. It's almost like Brad Thorne printed out a photo of Chuck Norris, put it on the wall at half-time and said, just go back out there. Otherwise, Chuck will get you. You know, three quick tries in the space of about 10 minutes. Showing that we Queenslanders don't give up, and then we sort of do by conceding 10 points in another 10 minutes. And then the charge down happened. Another try gets us even. Missed the conversion. Very lucky, actually, I believe, to have got that penalty, because I thought it was going to be a penalty the other way, but the referee knew which arm to place on that side, not that side. And, we kicked the ball out into touch. Reds are on the board, and the party didn't stop till 9:30 that night. So, yeah, good tonic water, let me tell you. We're back. We're ready to put our stamp on the Australian Conference, whatever that stamp is, I don't know. Fourth, but to be fair and to be honest, that's just gutsy Queenslander pride, and I've got to say the Sunwolves are a great side. They have improved immensely. And as I said, it is no easy task going to Japan for Australian sides now. We have to play the 80 minutes if we want to beat them. And I've got to say that is just all credit to the Sunwolves, because they have come from here to here in a matter of 3 years. And it is just a credit to the competition.
Yep, they have looked much more impressive this season. And you speak about wanting the Reds to get to fourth. We've still got work to do because they're still trailing the Sunwolves by a point. So a bit of water to go on that bridge just yet for the Reds. But does make it a bit interesting when there's a bit of competition going on at the bottom. The Sunwolves, I mean, they could have easily have won 3 or so games this season with that couple of close losses to the Waratahs, if I'm not mistaken, back in round 2. And, of course, this one here against the Reds could have been a lot different. Derby wins as well, it would have been. So that could have been massive for their season. But still, they look very impressive.
And they were only a point off getting a bonus point against the Blues too. So
True.
They're playing pretty good rugby.
Indeed, they are. They are a team to watch out for each and every week. No one seems to be able to really put this team away like they have been able to in previous seasons. We'll move on to where our next match should have been. Now, the Highlanders versus the Crusaders would have been our 5th match of the weekend. This game was abandoned due to be played after the Sunwolves Reds game. Now, I don't know if Paul's really planning to talk about this at all in this little pre-hour review video, but personally myself, I just wanted to say a little something. Pretty sad times, this sort of instance. In fact, this was cancelled over the events happening in Christchurch with the shootings in the mosques up there. To be honest with you guys, I watched those Friday night games after that happened, after I watched that, and rugby was irrelevant. This isn't super close to me. This is my home. This is my country in New Zealand. I'm hours away from Christchurch, still the South Island though, but it takes a big hit. It takes a massive hit on you, and everything else becomes secondary to what happens in these sort of things. It's not New Zealand, it's not what it's about, and it's not what people should have to deal with here in this sort of country, regardless of whether you believe in their sort of stuff, other people's stuff, anyone's stuff at all like that. So it's really sad times. I completely understand why the game was pulled, why they didn't play it. It's sad, really sad, and as always, I speak for you guys as well when I say our thoughts, obviously, with anyone out there from those communities, families, friends, and those people as well. I don't know if you want to say anything else on that, Shane, or Paul, even for that matter, about this.
Well, I was in Christchurch just over 3 years ago on my second Kentucky trip, which was the South Island, New Zealand trip. I love the hospitable nature of the people there, and my thoughts, my prayers with all the community. And I one thing and I don't want to get too political because we shouldn't, but one thing, love has to overcome hate. And I know that New Zealand has a warm heart, and and we've just, it's just a very sad, tragic event.
Indeed, very much so. It made it very difficult watching. I couldn't concentrate on that Hurricanes game. I had to rewatch it later on to even get a grasp, to write the notes on these games to find out what really happened. It's sad, really sad, and too close to home for that sort of stuff to happen. No matter where you come from, you're part of the country, you're part of New Zealand. So it is really sad. In terms of the match, they have decided to split the points. So it'll be a couple of points to each side after that. An enforced bye, I guess you can call it. But I guess for those teams, it's kind of really interesting, I guess you could say, how it was the Crusaders and the Highlanders, the two teams that would have been most affected by this these happenings as well, with a lot of effect from that coming from Dunedin as well from that. So, sad times, very sad times indeed, and hopefully we'll never see that again in the future here in good old New Zealand. But we'll move on, keep things with the rugby. Like I said, don't want to get political, but I have to say, for the first time, I got 3 monitors here. I've never had news or politics or anything on here since probably, earthquake sort of time, which was, God, years ago. So it's got to be a big deal to actually have news coming up on my monitors. So sad times indeed. Let's move on, though. We'll go to South Africa. Let's kick it into the final match of the round. The Lions versus the Rebels. Right. Goodness me, this was a crazy, crazy match. Fiery start for the Lions. And they were really their only highlight, weren't they? Mark scoring after a couple of minutes. That was it for them. They got a good start, a bit like we've seen a couple of matches ago. Early start for the Jaguares. Good start for the Lions. Then the Rebels took over. Now, this is a surprise, this halftime lead that they had. Hodge scoring, Cooper scoring, Meeks scoring, Naisarani scoring. They all grabbed tries, and they led 26 points to 5. That is a huge lead for a team travelling over to face, you got to say, the best South African team historically for a number of years now, and they looked absolutely hot. But much like happened for the Reds, something sparked the Lions in the second half as well. It did take a minute, though, as English jumped into the second half to score another try and increased that Rebels lead up to 33-5. Many people would have thought that was game over, but the Lions, they said no, and they took over that match. Tries to Schoolman, Kutsia, Mapu, and Skozan piled on the points over just a 15-minute period and tied it all up at 33 all. The Rebels, though, they got a bit of ill discipline as well, picking up a couple of yellows during that half. Meeks and Cottrell going to the bin. Time up, scores tied. Everyone was cursing another draw, but no, it was the youngster, Lombard, steps up, kicks a penalty, and takes the Lions to what seemed to be an extremely unlikely victory, 36-33. How did they do it?
Well, a lot to say. Firstly, the Rebels thought, hey, look at me, I'm going to Hawaii after this game. Can't do that. Cannot do that. That's wrong. That's sick. Letting in 31 points after you lead by 28 and losing that game, that was a winnable game when you had that margin with 30 odd to play. Secondly, 20-1 penalty count to the Lions. Now, either the Rebels' discipline was that bad with a few yellow cards, or the referee is a bad referee. Now, I don't usually say things about referees, but get your act together, seconds. That's terrible. Mate, you cannot have that penalty count lopsided. I've never heard of that in a Super Rugby game. Now, I make no excuses for Australian sides losing, but the great balance and divide here is you got a 20-1 penalty count against you, yet you concede 31 points. So obviously something has gone wrong in the defensive side of the Rebels. They went to sleep. They thought about the Hawaii trip. So look, you got to say the winner on the day, as it is recorded in the books, is the Lions, and they didn't give up. And the Rebels, they got the Sharks next week. Their hoodoo in South Africa continues. So very interested to see how they go.
He copped a bit of slack, didn't he? He has a few times this season on seconds for his refereeing. Our former Stormers player, if I'm not mistaken, in a Stormers game he refereed a few weeks ago, he did come under heavy criticism about his penalty count. Guess what happened here, not involving the Stormers, but still, that is very, very lopsided to go that way. But what a turnaround. What a turnaround. A crazy, crazy weekend of comeback rugby. And then, of course, like we had a bit in the chat as well, then what happened between England and Scotland. Madness, absolute madness. It seems to be the weekend for it. Full moon or something, who knows what's going on. But yeah, the Rebels got to pick it up. I mean, they're still top of Australia, but the Brumbies are catching up. So it's tense, it's tight, it's good. It's good rugby, and it makes it good viewing through the weekend as well. But that is our final match of the round. We've a short one, a relatively short one. Any final words you'd like to say on the round, Shane? We've got a minute. Well,
look, it was good games of rugby for the most part, except for the blowout in Cape Town. So, look, looking forward to next week and seeing how we go again.
Just one comment on that Lions Reds one though. the Lions Rebels. Sorry, the Rebels lead was because of Lions mistakes. Basically, the Lions just cut out those mistakes in the second half, and that's where they came through. I mean, it wasn't like the Rebels were dominating the Lions in that first half, kind of thing. So yeah, it's not impressed by the Rebels in that performance.
That's it. The final say, the final word.
The final words.
Oh, any more final words? Have another final word, shall we? We're done. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.
So thank you very much. Don't forget to check out Cornflakes, Steve's YouTube channel, Cornflakes Crib or Cornflakes over there for his, and I will be joining him for his preview this week on his channel. So join us over there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel up there and hit that bell so you get all notifications. I'm back tomorrow night with Ashwin and Stephen to talk about all the hot rugby topics. So obviously Six Nations will be in there amongst other things. Down there is that link to that Patreon I talked about earlier, so you can support me and with the free stuff and also get exclusive content. And then over there are 2 videos that the artificial intelligence here at YouTube say you're going to enjoy. So give those a check. Just click on them, view them, that kind of stuff. Jeez, this is hard work, this talking business.
Oh,